Michael McQueen.
Well, good morning, USANA. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. It's great to be back on a USANA platform again. We often hear this word family in the USANA business, and I think this is the 8th or the 9th event I've had the chance to speak for you guys, and I feel like I'm part of the family. And I wanted to say, happy birthday, USANA. How cool is it? 25 years. Do you know what's great though about this company? And what is probably a little bit unique about this company is that you honour your past, you celebrate your past, but I get the sense in everyone I speak to that you're more committed to the future than you are to the past. Is that correct? And that's exciting to be in a company where that is the culture. Now we're going to talk about a theme in our time together this morning that is probably the most important theme for anyone in business today, and it is this concept of momentum. How do you build explosive growth in your business? Now, can I see a show of hands? How many of you would like to have more momentum in your business in the coming 12 months? Hands up. Most of you, very good. I'm going to show you this morning how to do just that. And what we'll do in the breakout sessions is dive a little bit deeper than we have the chance to go in this short session. But I want to start off our time together this morning with a bit of fun, a bit of a game. We're going to start our time together with a game called Were You Paying Attention? And here's what I want to do in a few moments. I want to take you back to high school science class. I want to ask you a question this morning relating to something you learnt in high school science, and I wonder how many of you were actually paying attention. This will tie into this whole theme of momentum as we go along. The question I want to ask you this morning is this one here. Which law of physics states that matter left to itself will always tend toward decay and disintegration? Now, how many of you, looking at that question, already know you were not paying attention in class? You've got no idea what the answer to this question is. Hands up if that's you. A couple of you here, you're the honest ones. All right, I'm going to give you 4 multiple choice options. Is it A, the law of atrophy? Is it B, the law of dystrophy? Is it C, the law of entropy? Or is it D, the law of dysentery? Okay? So I'm going to give you a few moments to confer with the person next to you, then we'll do a bit of a straw poll. See how many of you were actually paying attention in high school science. Okay, show of hands. How many of you here think it is A, the law of atrophy? The answer to the question on the screen. Okay, a couple of you think it's A. Or who here thinks it's B, the law of dystrophy? Anyone thinks it's B? A few more. Okay, how many think it's C, the law of entropy? All right, and there's normally a few in every crowd. How many of you think it's D, the law of dysentery? Anyone think it's D here this morning? A few of you, okay. Interestingly, the correct answer is not necessarily the most commonly given answer by show of hands. Correct answer on the screen here is actually C, the law of entropy. Some of you are very proud of yourselves. You're paying attention in class. Well done. Now here's the interesting thing. Remember at school, our teachers would teach us things like this, and they'd say, pay attention, because one day you'll need to know this stuff. And we were all teenagers and figured, as if, because we knew everything when we were teenagers, every teenager does, and I probably said the same thing in high school science when I was learning about the law of entropy, not realising a number of years later, I would dedicate a chunk of my career to studying that law and how it applies to businesses, to organisations, to institutions. For those who I haven't had the chance to speak to before and at the various USANA events I've been on the stage for, a bit of my backstory. I've spent over a decade now, in fact coming up to 13 years, studying trends. What's changing in the world around us, and then helping organisations and leaders navigate the stuff that's changing or being disrupted around them so they can navigate that change and get stronger as a result of it, rather than being a victim of that change. And I guess even I've spent a decade and a half looking at demographic trends and social trends. A very pivotal year for my research was 2011, because that is the year. That was an iconic, important year, when we saw a number of big businesses, brands we'd known for decades, fall prey to that law of entropy. In fact, in the space of 4 months, we saw the demise of Borders Bookstore, we saw the demise of Saab Automotive, but the big one, of course, was the demise of Kodak. And like you, I was reading a lot of the press coverage that year, looking at the brands that were falling off the perch and thinking, what's going on here? And in fact, that question started off as a blog post for my website that actually became a 3.5-year research project that culminated in the release of 2 very different books. The first book that I released at the end of that research project was a book I spoke about at the International Convention over in Salt Lake City last year, a book called Winning the Battle for Relevance. And my goal with this book, and I know a number of you have read it, my goal with this book was to essentially answer the question, what is the difference between the enduring and the endangered? Because you think about how many businesses in the last few years have had a pretty tough time. In fact, have a look at this montage of businesses, this collection of brands on the screen behind me. Brands that were once the biggest in their industry, iconic, successful. Many of them today are a shadow of their former selves, or have actually filed for bankruptcy. But so you compare that list with a very different collection of brands like these ones on the screen, and the question is, what have these businesses done differently? What's been the culture, the mindset? What have been the habits that these businesses have had? And a lot of the book, Winning the Battle for Relevance, was about that question. What can we learn from brands that stay at the cutting edge? Now, what's interesting as I was doing the research for that book, one theme came to the surface time and time again. It was this theme of momentum. See, any business or any individual that stays at the cutting edge does so because somewhere on the line, they figured out how to build momentum, but here's the key challenge: how do you keep it? Once you've got momentum working for you, how do you maintain it? And if you started to lose that edge, how do you get it back? And that is the most important question for anyone in business today. And essentially the book I wrote last year was all about that question, because even though we talk about momentum a lot, there's remarkably little out there on the theme. Now, we learn about momentum in science, of course, at school. We'll talk momentum equals velocity times mass. But when you look at the question of what do businesses do to build momentum, there's actually very little good information out there in the market on that question. So I put a book together, I guess, to try and answer that question. And I want to give to you this morning the business formula for building momentum. So if you've got something to write with, grab it out, because I want to give you some things to take away and apply in your businesses, in your teams in the coming 6 to 12 months if you're going to build explosive growth. And there are 3 elements to building momentum in business and maintaining momentum. The 3 elements are up on the screen behind me. The formula is momentum equals A plus F times C. A plus F times C. And this morning with the leaders, we talked about this question of which of these 3 elements is the most important. It's a very difficult question to answer, but can I suggest the first element, the A, is probably the one that is most often misunderstood in business today. And the A in this equation for building momentum stands for activity. And that should be no surprise to most of us here, because of course momentum is about motion, it's about being in motion, it's about movement, so activity's got to be part of that. It's about getting stuff done. Here's the challenge. I deal with businesses on a daily basis who are busy. In fact, I had a conversation a few weeks ago with a guy in Perth in Western Australia who runs a financial planning business. He's been in business for almost 20 years, and he took me aside at the end of a conference presentation, and you could just see in his whole physicality, he was tired. And he was quite honest with me. He said, I've been in business for 20 years, and he said, I just feel like we are so flat out. I am busier than I've ever been, and yet it feels like we're just spinning our wheels. It feels like we're not getting traction. And this is the great challenge in business today, is many of us have equated busyness with productivity. Now, can I suggest something to you this morning? For some of you, your busyness is the thing stopping you from building momentum in this business. You're doing things that are taking up your time, that are taking up your attention, your energy, your emotion, but they're not the sort of things that will actually build momentum. They are the things that will often rob you of it. Now, no individual, no business owner deliberately sabotages their success. We don't do this deliberately, but so many of us still fall into the trap. So the question is, how could you be sure, as a business owner, that you are doing the right things? The things that would cause you to build momentum rather than the things that would rob you of it. In the book, I actually run through 5 tests A 5-way test to determine whether the activities you're engaging with to build your business are going to build momentum or not. Because we've only got a very short session together, I want to just cover 2 of them. 2 tests that will determine whether you're going to build momentum or not. The first is this. The first test is to ask, are my activities, the things I do on a daily basis to build my business, are they inspired? Am I inspired? I'm actually passionate. As David said as we kicked off our time together this morning, how clearly focused am I on my why? Where I'm going, what I'm trying to achieve here, the thing that gets me out of bed with a spring in my step. Now, one of the great privileges of doing what I do every single day on stages around the world is to connect with people, a whole huge variety of people. I think this afternoon we've got a book signing. I'll get the chance to meet a whole lot of you this afternoon. But I love meeting not just the audience members as I travel around the world, but often meeting the speakers backstage. Because every speaker's got a story. They're fascinating humans. And one of the speakers I had the chance to connect with last year in New Zealand is someone that many of you may not know. All the Kiwis in the room know this guy. In New Zealand, this guy is something of a legend, and it's the man on the screen behind me. He's a man named Steve Hansen. Now, I'm told that this is about as close as you get to a smile from Steve Hansen, so I felt very proud that I had elicited such joy and excitement from this man. Now, if you don't know who he is, Steve Hansen is the current coach of the All Blacks. Oh yes, the Kiwis are excited. Now, as an Australian, I meant to say that the Australian team's better, but the reality is, putting all nationalistic pride aside, the All Blacks are the best rugby team the world has ever known. But not just that, you know, they are statistically the most successful sports team the world has ever known. And it was interesting speaking with Steve Hansen, and I said, what is it about you as a coach? How do you keep the boys at the cutting edge? Because the challenge is, they've been the best for years. I said, how do you try and make sure you keep them humble and hungry and at that cutting edge? And he said, he actually gave away a number of the tips that he uses, and I'm not allowed to share most of them because they're fairly confidential, but one of the things he shared backstage, he then shared on the stage, so I guess I can reveal it to you, but he said the most important thing to maintaining momentum for them as a group of peak performers, and by the way, it's as critical for you in your USANA business as it is for the All Blacks, he said it's all about what they're dwelling on, what they're focusing on. He said the most dangerous thing for the team is to get focused on the past. Last week's match, last season's success. Because here's the challenge, if it was a great match last week or a great season last year, the danger with that is so easily complacency begins to creep in. Now the old saying is true, the moment you think you've made it, you've passed it. And so many business owners get to the point where they're like, we've had a great year, and they begin to unconsciously relax a little bit, rest on their laurels, become a little bit complacent, even sometimes a little bit arrogant. Hey, we've figured it out, we're the best, we're the biggest. And he said the danger is when they're looking back and focusing on the successes, but he said it's also dangerous if they're focused on the past and it was a rough match, it was a difficult season. Because he said it's so easy it can rock their confidence. But it's equally dangerous not just to have them focus on the past, but to become obsessed with the present. This match, this routine, this training session, just focusing on the minute stuff in front of them. He said, my challenge constantly as a coach is to have them focus forward. The next match, the next season, the next 5 years. In fact, the key word he used was the word legacy. He said, I get the best from the boys when they realise they are wearing the colours, they're wearing the uniform of something that will long outlive them. He said, I need to have them focused and inspired on where they're going, the bigger picture. And you know, it's exactly the same with you in this business. Some of you have walked into this room for this AP convention and you've had a great year. And that's awesome. Maybe you've had a tough year when everyone's up and dancing and moving their arms and you're actually a bit down because you've had a really difficult year. Hey, learn from the past. Celebrate the past, but don't dwell there. Maybe you're focused on the present. What do you need to do this week? The people you've got to call as soon as you're done when you get back from this conference. Great. Present's good to be mindful of, be diligent about, but the key challenge is how do you keep focus on the future? Stay inspired. And is everything you're doing on a daily basis connected to that vision? See, I'm guessing I'm speaking this morning to a group of people who are determined, who are committed to building a successful USANA business. You wouldn't have given up the time, you wouldn't have paid to be here if you weren't determined, if you weren't committed. Here's the problem with that. Determination and commitment are impressive virtues. But the problem is, you are not out to impress people. You're out to inspire people. You're out to impact people. You're out to attract people. See, this is a business of multiplication. You cannot give away what you haven't got. And if you are not inspired, people sniff it. They sense it. You talk to them about the business, you go through the compensation plan, you talk about the products. What they get, though, is they sense that determination, that commitment, but that's not infectious. You know what's infectious? You know what they'll catch? You know what will make them want to come and be a part of your team? Is when they see that you're just on fire. When you're excited, when you're zealous, when you're enthusiastic. Do you know what will make you zealous and enthusiastic? Having a clear, defined vision. Why? The old proverb tells us that where there is no vision, people will perish. What that doesn't mean is people will literally drop over and die. What it means is there's something that dies in human beings. There's a listlessness, a despondency that creeps in when we lose sight of where we're going next. So my first question is, are you just going through the motions, doing the business stuff, or are your activities inspired? Are they connected to your vision? Second question you need to ask is, are my activities intentional? How deliberate are you about the things you're doing every single day to build your business? I don't know how many of you have ever heard that statistic, that it takes 21 days to form a mental habit. Who's ever heard that statistic before? Hands up if you heard that, 21 days. Do you know there was never any research that went into that statistic? I suspect someone, I don't know, maybe like Anthony Robbins said it years ago, and we all said, well, that sounds about right, and we all kind of started repeating it. Now, University College in London 2 years ago decided to look at this question and find out how long does it actually take for human beings to get to the point where they start operating on autopilot, not consciously thinking about what they're doing, what they call the point of automaticity. And here is what they discovered. It actually takes, on average, about 66 days to get to the point where you operate on autopilot. Now, how many of you, hands up, have been in this business for more than 66 days? Hands up if that's you here this morning. That's most of us. You know the challenge with that? The challenge with that is this. According to Professor Bruce Lipton, who's a neuroscientist at Stanford University, if you've been doing something for more than 66 days, you are doing upwards of 95% of the things you do every day without engaging your conscious brain. You're operating on instinct. You're operating on autopilot. And this is a great challenge for all of us, particularly in business. Now, I want to prove to you just how all-pervasive this is, the operating on autopilot, how naturally it happens for us as humans. Can I ask you to stand up this morning if, like me, you wear an old-school analog watch, not a smart watch, not a digital watch, an old-school classy analog watch. Would you mind standing for me if you've got an analog watch on your wrist this morning? Many of us do, all the classy ones, look at that. Very good. If you've got an analog watch, can I get you to look at your watch? Now, stay standing, if you wouldn't mind. Look at your watch. It should say something like 8 minutes past 11, somewhere around there. Make sure your watch is on time, make sure it's working. Now, take your wrist, the wrist your watch is on, put it behind your back, so you cannot see the face of your watch. And if I were to ask you, what sort of minute markers the face of your watch has? Does it have numbers, Roman numerals, with little dashes, dots? Can I ask you to stay standing if you could not with 100% certainty tell me you know what sort of minute markers your watch has got? If you're not sure, stay standing. Look at that, how many people are still standing around the room? Thank you, grab a seat. Now, it's interesting, you check your watch hundreds of times a day. You look at that face, but you don't go the next step of consciously reading what is on there. You look at it, but you don't see it. And it's exactly the same for us in business. Now, it doesn't matter, of course, when it comes to looking at the face of your watch if you're not engaging your conscious brain, but in business, it can be a real challenge. Because one of the things I find working with clients is this. We get to a point, once we've been doing something for a few years, where we start to unconsciously find more and more efficient ways to do ineffective things. And some of the very ineffective things you're doing highly efficiently are the very things causing you to lose your edge, causing you to lose momentum, because you're operating on autopilot, doing things in a way that perhaps isn't the most up-to-date, the most enthusiastic, the most relevant. In fact, I love this case in point, an example of a business that was doing ineffective things efficiently. A friend of mine was doing an online application form for health insurance, and this was, no joke, one of the questions they asked as part of the online application form. She took a photo of the screen on her phone. Have you ever been in an accident that resulted in your death? Now, I would love to know how many people clicked yes and what happens next. Now the challenge is, of course, why does this occur? Because with every likelihood, the person who put that form together hasn't read the questions they ask for years. They just keep doing it over and over again. And see, in the workshop, in the breakout session, we're going to look at this question of how do you become, as a business owner, ruthlessly intentional, deliberate, purposeful in what you're doing every single day, rather than falling into that trap of operating on autopilot. But see, it's not just about what you are doing intentionally. Do you know what the other thing that matters for you in business if you're going to maintain momentum? Is to be clear on the things that you have stopped doing in the past. In fact, I was speaking with the leaders this morning. This was a question I challenged them with. Whenever I'm working with a business or a leadership group and they've lost that momentum, growth has stalled, things have become a little bit bored, a little bit dated, a little bit beige. Time and time again, what I see is this. Somewhere along the way, they stopped doing the basics. They stopped doing the things they used to do when they first started, and they were excited, and they didn't know any better. And my question for you this morning is this. What have you stopped consciously doing in your business? Do you know, because in this business, the things we often stop doing as our business grows, as our team expands, is we stop doing the basics that build relationship, that make people feel a part of things, that build that sense of community and culture. We start to do more and more of our communication via Facebook, via text messages. And we lose that personal touch that when you first started, you did naturally. And so the question I want to ask you is that, what have you stopped doing? Is it potentially time you went back to some of the basics? The things that were part of the magic formula that made you successful in the first place. So the first key is activity. To make sure your activities are inspired, make sure they are intentional and deliberate. The second element of this equation for building momentum ties into what Lee Shaw shared before, and I thought it was so beautifully put. Is Lee Shaw around somewhere? Where is she? Can't see her right now, but just a brilliant presentation talking about this next theme. And the F in the formula stands for focus. The importance of focus is difficult to overstate if you're going to build momentum in the coming 12 months. Now, one of the things I find that's interesting as a speaker around the world is that typically in audiences, regardless of culture, there are one of two groups. The first group of people in most audiences love to volunteer. Like when I say I need a volunteer, they're like, this is me, this is my moment, I was born for this. And they run down, they jump up on stage, it's very exciting. How many of you are the volunteerers here? Who likes to volunteer at conferences? Does anyone actually like to do this? There's only a few of you. How many of you are like the second group? I'm like the second group. They're the sort of people that when I say volunteer, they try and look as invisible as possible. So like, do not come near me, I would rather have root canal than get on that stage. I mean, how many of you are non-volunteers? Hands up. You're probably unlikely to put your hands up, but okay, you're the second group. Now, I was at a conference a few years ago, and the speaker on the stage asked for a volunteer, but he said, I need a volunteer that wears glasses. And people, there's a stage much like this, a room much like this, people poured down from the stands, and the first group on the stage was a guy that looked a little bit like this guy here. His name was Don, we discovered as the speaker interviewed him, and Don didn't have just glasses on, he had like the Coke bottle variety glasses. And the speaker said, Don, you're going to be perfect for what I want you to do here this morning. And the speaker reached for a newspaper, gave the newspaper to Don and said, Don, I want you to open just to the cover page of the newspaper and just read some of the text in one of the articles on the front page. And Don looked at the cover and read a few sentences and he said, okay, great, thanks for that. Next, here's what I want you to do. Turn to page 3. I want you to read some more of the newspaper, but I want you to take your glasses off. And I thought, that's a bit mean. Obviously, he's got bad eyesight, he's not going to be able to do this. And so Don took his glasses off, flipped to page 3 and said, I can't make out any of it. It's just like a swirling mass of grey. I can't even really make out the headline. But this is when it got interesting. Then the speaker took a sheet of cardboard that had a little slit cut out of the middle of it, maybe 3 or 4 mils squared. And he put it over the newspaper and said, Don, leave your glasses off, but look again and see what you can make out. And you watch Don look at the newspaper, and to his utter surprise, he said, I can make out 3 or 4 letters absolutely clearly. He said, I can't believe it. He started moving the cardboard along the sheet so he could make out a word, then it was a whole sentence. Not a very efficient way to read the newspaper. But I was speaking to my optometrist afterwards and said, how is that possible that a man with such poor eyesight could make out the letters clearly by simply putting cardboard over the top with a slit cut out of the middle? And she said it's the same principle that applied with pinhole glasses back in the day. She said what that cardboard did is it reduced the circles of confusion around the retina, allowing Don to focus without the benefit of magnification. Yeah, the same dynamic that occurred for Don that day when he took his glasses off is the dynamic affecting most of us on a daily basis. We are being bombarded by content and information and noise, and it's ruining our capacity to focus. In fact, a quick pop quiz here. According to recent research, the average adult's attention span today is what? Is it 2 minutes? Is it 45 seconds? Is it 12 seconds? Or D, is it 8 seconds? How many think it might be 2 minutes? Anyone think it's 2 minutes here? Hands up. You're the optimists. Good. How many think it's 45 seconds? Okay, a few. Who thinks it's 12 seconds? All right. Okay, who are the people who've got a really low expectation of human beings? How many think it might be 8 seconds? So your hands up. All right, you guys, the pessimists, are actually correct. It is 8 seconds. Now, what's interesting about this is, to put this in context, that means as humans today, we have an attention span 1 second less than the average goldfish, okay? They've got an attention span of 9 seconds. And of course, what are the things that have contributed to this inability to focus? It's technology. It's what I call weapons of mass distraction. The stuff we are surrounded by constantly that is ruining our capacity to focus. I wonder, how many of you have walked into a cafe or a restaurant before and you've encountered a scene like this? Everyone's at the table. They're not talking to each other though, they're all on their phones interacting with other people who aren't at the table. Now, how many of you secretly judge people who do this in restaurants and cafes? Hands up if you secretly judge people who do this. I do too, until I catch myself doing the same thing, okay? And what's interesting is psychologists are talking about the danger of this inability to be in the moment, to focus, to concentrate on our mental health, but it's even impacting our physical health. In fact, according to Pew Research, last year in the US, 8,000 pedestrians were either seriously injured or killed by wandering into traffic, absorbed with what was on their phone, oblivious to the world around them, and they got hit by a car. 8,000 of them last year alone. And this is becoming so serious, in some cities around the world, they're actually installing signs like these to warn drivers of potential danger spots. And last year in Sydney, in the downtown area of Sydney, my hometown, they've actually started installing these lights in the pavement, in the sidewalk, so if you walk up to the intersection, glued to your phone, you'll actually know when to stop rather than walking out into the traffic. Now, you think about this from a business perspective, a professional perspective, our inability to focus is dire. Because you know what it's doing? It's preventing us from ever getting into that flow state and getting constructive things done. In fact, if you think about the average workplace today, and some very interesting research from the University of California, Irvine discovered last year that the average office worker today is interrupted or self-interrupts, and often it's the latter one, not the first, interrupted or self-interrupts every 3 minutes. And get this, it can take 23 minutes to get back to the point you were as focused before the interruption occurred. And what's interesting too, in the professional arena, we've started to kid ourselves in thinking we can operate in a state of distractedness, that we can perform, we can get into that flow state. We call this multitasking, and the data is pretty clear. We can't. People who multitask are 40% slower and make a whole lot more mistakes. See, the Russians knew this. The old Russian proverb said, if you try and chase 2 rabbits, you'll catch neither. And most of us at any given moment in our business, we're not chasing 2 things, we're not trying to do 3 or 4 or 10 things, we're doing 20 things at any given moment. And as I said, it is hard to overstate how important focus is to building momentum, and Liesl talked about this. I love the quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. He said, the successful person is merely the average person focused. It's not intelligence, it's not contact, it's not your education, it's not how you look, it's your ability to focus. Those people you've seen come across stage for recognition, do you know how they got there? They worked really hard. But I bet if you asked every single one of them, this word focus would come up time and time again. Now, we can't avoid interruptions and distractions entirely, and as Liesl said, it's a part of life for every single one of us, but how do we deal with these? I want to give you a couple of very quick tips as to how to achieve that degree of focus. And the first key is simply this. We've got to get really good at switching off and shutting out the things that have the potential to distract. That may mean switching your phone off for certain points throughout the day, being unavailable. And when it comes to email is a big one for many of us. I was speaking to the CEO of Air New Zealand recently, a guy named Chris Luxon. And Chris Luxon was saying one of the key things for him to get into that flow state and being productive, building momentum on a daily basis, is he said he will only check his email 4 times a day for 20 minutes at a time. And in between those blocks, he shuts his email program down. He is unavailable. He said, if I don't do that, I spend my entire day reacting to the urgent and the immediate, rather than ever getting to the important stuff, which is where momentum is built. Now, if you can't think about shutting your email program down, you might want to look at some software like SaneBox, for instance. SaneBox allows you to curate your email throughout the day, so the only stuff that gets through to you is the stuff that is urgent and important. And it learns very quickly using artificial intelligence the sort of things to let come straight through to you and what to hold back in quarantine. Now, even if you don't want to use SaneBox or you don't want to shut your email down, the most important thing every single one of you can do to get into that flow state on a daily basis is as soon as we're done here today, turn off all new message, new email notifications on your phone, on your tablet device, on your laptop, your desktop PC. Do it instantly. Because you'll be amazed the difference this makes. The interesting research from the University of London has found that every time that little ping goes off, ping, new emails arrive, the little window appears in the top right-hand corner of your screen. Every time that notification goes off, we get a little bit dumber. I don't know if you're aware of this. Apparently for the girls, the moment that little ping goes off and there's an email waiting for you, even if you have no idea who it's from or what it's about, for you women, you lose instantly 10 basis points off your effective IQ. Now for the blokes, for the men, it's worse. You may have guessed that's probably the case. For men, the moment that little ping goes off and an email's waiting for you, you lose, and I say you, me as well, boys, we will lose 15 basis points off our effective IQ. What that means is, the moment a bloke is distracted, he's operating at the cognitive level of an 8-year-old boy. And that might explain a whole lot for some of you here this morning. And so just switching off those notifications will make the biggest difference. Another key thing though to get into that focus state, and again Leisha spoke about this, is the importance of getting good at saying no. Getting good at saying no, setting boundaries. I love the quote here from Steve Jobs who said, focus is not saying yes to the one thing, he said it's saying no to the 100 other good things out there at any given moment. I read a great blog post from Tim Ferriss, the author of The 4-Hour Workweek recently, and Tim Ferriss talked about the importance of getting good at saying no, and he simply said this. He said, we need to make decision making a whole lot simpler, make it a binary process. When someone suggests an idea to you, or when there's an opportunity that comes your way, if it's not a hell yeah, the answer's no. Now, isn't that interesting? Because you guys get stuff every single day that comes to you, opportunities, ideas. They come to the movies, let's go away for the weekend, and you think, okay, it'd be nice to do, but what's my vision? I want to build my business. And you'll have to say no to things that are convenient and comfortable and popular. Do you know what? If you're going to have stuff that others will never have, you need to do things others will never do. And that means saying no. As unpopular as it might be, as your family may not understand, it means sticking to your guns and knowing that focusing on what matters most is the critical ingredient.